we want to still be individuals. Yes, we're going to get to be parents, and that's going to be incredible, but we're also still ourselves.
Katie, let it out with Katie. Let it out with Katie Dalebout, enthusiast and curator of people and ideas you need to hear. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast called Let It Out with me, your host, Katie Dalebout. And today's episode is brought to you in part by my best friend, my little sister, Amanda, actually. She has this amazing program about healing your relationship with fitness that, trust me, you guys, I've been hanging out with her by her pool all summer. If you follow me on social media, you always see us together. And we're actually both only children, but I really think of her as my little sister. People always ask us if we're sisters because we kind of look alike. Anyway, all summer long, she has, and more than that actually, she's been working on this program to help women. She's already an eating psychology coach and health coach and a Pilates instructor, my Pilates instructor. She really turned me on to Pilates, which I talked about in the favorites episode. That was the last episode. But anyway, long story short, she has this program called Liberated Movement that launched last Friday. And it is an online course that will help you heal your relationship with exercise and doing exercise to love yourself, to love your body, to help you feel better and feel more empowered. I don't even like that word. That's maybe not the word, but to help you feel inspired and to give you something that actually feels good and changing that relationship. For me, I never liked exercise until really I met Amanda, to be honest. And Amanda was kind of the opposite of me. She over-exercised and was addicted to exercise and really had to change her relationship to it. So thus, she made this course, and I know she worked so hard on it, believe in it so much, and have been with her as she's been working so hard in it that it's worth every single penny. That, anyway, it is a sponsor of the show this week, and that's why I'm promoting it, because I truly love it. So if you do want to check it out, the link is in the show notes. Make sure you use that link, and if you have any questions about it at all, let me know. Shoot me an email. And on to today's episode. Today I have my other best friend. Unfortunately, she doesn't live in the same city as I do, but Simi is back by popular demand. Everybody loves Simi. I'm going to get right into today's episode, but there are a lot of mothers or soon-to-be mothers or people who might be considering being a mother someday listening to this podcast, and I am nowhere near becoming a mother, but I am curious about it, and I have a lot of friends who are becoming mothers or recent mothers. And so while my BFF Simi was pregnant just a couple months ago, we recorded this conversation to really take a snapshot, or Snapchat, I guess, of what being pregnant looked like for her and how that might be different from other people and what she learned about her body image and her relationship to food and her relationship with her partner, Tim, and everything about her thoughts and feelings throughout pregnancy. And we really have this honest chat about this, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear it. I just listened back and I love this conversation so much. I'm so glad that we had it and we recorded it so you guys can hear it as well. So I would love your feedback. Tell us what you're thinking and feeling regarding this episode, regarding pregnancy in general, in the Facebook group. Make sure you're on my email list, and at the end of the episode, I'll come back to tell you who's coming up on the show next week, and I'm really excited to tell you. So enjoy this conversation with Simi. I love her so much, and congratulations to her, because her and Tim had their baby. Osh is born, and I cannot wait to actually meet him in person. But if you guys want to see pictures of their baby and see more about their lives post-motherhood, check out Simi on social media. All of the links to her will be in the show notes. But follow her. She's amazing. I love her. And thank you, Simi, so much for doing the podcast yet again. Talk to you guys after the episode. I'm here with Simi, one of my best friends, friend of the podcast. I'd say BFF of the podcast at this point because this is your third, almost your fourth appearance on the podcast, because during the live podcast, multiple people told me that even though you weren't officially a guest on that one, multiple people heard your laugh from the audience, which is the cutest laugh ever. There it is. Hello.
Hello.
So, official BFF of the podcast. And we also sort of have two guests today because, can I say the name of your baby?
You totally can.
Alyosha is in your belly, and he's about to come out in about 2 weeks or so. We'll see when he actually makes his debut. But you're pregnant, so congratulations, first of all.
Thank you so much. We are both happy to be here.
And it's funny because I've had you on solo telling your story, and then I had you and Tim on talking about your relationship and marriage. And so it's very fitting that we do a pregnancy episode or a demystifying pregnancy episode with you, because really your whole life has unfolded on my podcast. It's like reality TV for you.
It's so true. It's like a new version of The Bachelorette.
Exactly. It's like the opposite of The Bachelorette. It's like the wife and mother.
I know, right? It's like the boring ass Bachelorette.
Not really. I think this is more interesting. Move over, JoJo, or whatever her name is. So we hang out all the time. We talk all the time. And I think it was when I was visiting, or maybe it was when we were on one of our multiple times a day phone conversations. And we were talking about this experience of pregnancy that you're having and how people have all sorts of experiences of pregnancy, but I think we have very common perceptions of what pregnancy is like. And so we wanted to get on the call together and really talk about it, because as someone who is not pregnant and don't know if I ever will be pregnant, or maybe I will, I don't know, I'm not in that phase of my life, I have a lot of questions for you. And I've had the great fortune of being able to kind of go along with your pregnancy from the beginning. I think I was one of the first people you shared it with till now, and it's so exciting. But I thought I still have some questions that I haven't asked you yet that I really thought that I would, and I thought it would be valuable to people because you are so wise and you're one of the coolest people that I know, that I thought I would record it for a couple of reasons. So for people like me who haven't had experience with it, to learn, what it feels like firsthand, and for people who have had an experience, to feel less alone, if their experience is similar to yours, and if their experience is totally different than yours, they'll know that that isn't the only way, and perhaps to have more sympathy for friends who, have had more of a challenging pregnancy. I think that's something that would be a good thing. And then lastly, for you, Simi, to remember what the last 9 months of your life have been like. And I think that that's what I really love about these podcasts, is I get to capture a moment in time with people where they were feeling whatever they were feeling, or this phase in your life that you were in, where you can, like you and Tim have that old podcast conversation that we had that you can always go back to and remember what it was like in 2015 when we recorded that. Or, for this one, maybe, who knows, Alyosha will be listening to this someday when he's 20 and too cool, and who knows what will be happening then. Podcasts will probably be so uncool and weird by then. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show and chatting with me again.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me back.
Cool. Yeah, I think we'll focus a bit on pregnancy. Like I said, I want to hear about that and be able to ask questions candidly. And I know that you're such a vulnerable, real person on the internet and just in life that I couldn't think of a better person to have this conversation with. But also, I know this will be a tangential conversation. We'll talk about lots of different things, and I hope you come on the podcast 1,000 more times to talk about even more things. So anyway, thanks for being here.
I'm so excited.
Yay. So when did you know that you wanted to be a parent? Were you one of those people who always wanted to be a parent, from the time you were really young? Did you have baby dolls you carried around when you were 5? When did you know that this was something that you wanted to do?
Definitely was not one of those people who kind of like grows up with the maternal instinct. I mean, like I played with Barbie dolls growing up, but I was like mostly interested in just like having them make out. Like I wasn't really like interested in like letting them like have kids or like pretending like they were my kids. I grew up with a mom and a sister who are both incredibly maternal. They both really love kids. They're very good with kids. They're very natural children. Children are drawn to them. I am not like that. I'm not. I've never been like super, super into kids. I don't mean to make myself like sound like a monster or anything, but like I'm not someone who's ever felt like supernatural around kids.
Same.
Kids aren't like typically drawn towards me.
I relate to that a lot.
And I am definitely one of those people who I feel like I really could have, I really feel like if I was with a partner, married to someone who did not want to have children, I think I really could have wrapped my mind around that and been fine not having children. But being married to Tim and knowing that that being a dad was something that he really desired, I was also open to becoming a mom and open to becoming a parent with him and doing this thing together. So I would say that I don't really have like any memories growing up of like really like craving to be a mom or like wanting to be a mom or like acting out being a mom at all. And the moment that I decided that I was ready to be a parent was actually this past year, so 2015, Halloween weekend. We went to visit my friend Russ in Boston, and we went out and we drank like one too many martinis on Friday night. And so because we were hurting a little bit the next day, we ended up not going out on Halloween. And instead, Russ, Tim, and I like went to the corner store and bought candy to hand out like in his like Boston trick or treat night. And we were just sitting on the front stoop, and there were all these adorable kids and these like cute families coming up and trick or treating. And I just like felt in that moment like, oh my gosh, I think I'm ready to like have a kid. And so I told Tim like a few days later, I was like, I think I'm really ready to like start trying. If you are, like, I don't know, something just shifted inside of me. And he told me then, he was like, no, I'm not ready. So he said that he wanted, he was like, I want like at least another year. And so I was fine with that since I had sort of like sprung it out of nowhere on him. And then it was, I don't know, like maybe a month later that he told me that like he had changed his mind and he was ready to start trying too. And so like 2 weeks before Christmas, we started trying. And then the day after Christmas, I found out I was pregnant.
And then you called me and I was in my
closet.
I
called you, yes.
I remember exactly where I was. It's like, you know, when a celebrity dies or something big, you remember where you are?
Like when Princess Diana.
Yeah, I remember exactly where I was. So did you guys, well, I guess you sort of already answered this because I was going to say, you know, when did you guys start having this conversation, but which you sort of already answered, but from when you got married and when you guys were dating, did you guys talk about kids and having kids and like what kind of parents you would be, just more in like an elusive way of like sometime in the future?
Yeah, definitely. We talked about parenting and co-parenting and like what our hopes and dreams were around that long before we got married. So that was something that I felt really, really clear on because like I said, I wasn't someone who felt super strongly like one way or another. And so those conversations were like really important for me to have with him. And I know they were important for him to have too. So we talked a lot about like back when we were living in Chicago and when we first lived together, like we talked about how many kids did we want to have and, you know, like what might that look like and what would we be excited about when it came to parenting and like, you know, what names did we like for kids and all of that stuff. So those were conversations that we had like a few years before we got married, and then they continued. And, you know, as time goes on, the conversations get a little bit more real. And then the conversations turn to like, okay, how much longer until you're ready to like start trying and those kinds of things.
Yeah. It's kind of more a fun daydream thing, and then it becomes a conversation and it becomes a plan, and that
Right.
makes sense.
It evolves into more like realistic conversations from just like the dreaming part of it.
Yeah, and I feel like for you guys, something that we should mention to everyone listening is that you've kind of had an experience with being parents already, because you have two basically children
Yes.
that my brothers, Harrison and Oliver. So was the same sort of conversations had when you guys decided to get your dogs, and when you having co-parenting your dogs together, was that kind of a good, do you recommend that to people who want to maybe become parents? Like, was that kind of a good, I know it's, I'm sure parents listening are maybe rolling their eyes with this, but is it something that was effective for you to, kind of see how you guys could share responsibilities on something important in your life and keeping something alive?
Absolutely. I mean, you know that we treat our dogs like we do humans in our house, and
They
so
are humans. They
yeah,
look like humans. They act like humans.
they're we very much consider them like children in our home, and
I think we should make the album cover of this episode just like a photo of the goons.
I love it. I think we totally should too. I don't think there was anything that prepared Tim and I more that has prepared us more for parenting than having those dogs. And obviously, like, yes, in a way, because we have these lives that we're responsible for taking care of. But more than that, I think just the way that we have learned to communicate and like co-care for something has been really, really huge for us. And in the beginning, when we first got Harrison, we had a lot of like arguments and disagreements, and we couldn't communicate very well in that way. But then we got better at it and better at it. And then we got Oliver, our second dog, and I feel like we've really like mastered that art together. And I know it will obviously change when Alyosha's here, and we'll have to, keep building on those skills. But yeah, I mean, for us, like having the dogs, and now we've had dogs for 5 years. So having those dogs has been incredibly helpful in terms of just having a small glimpse into what it's like to co-care for something together.
Yeah, it was actually really beautiful. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I remember this moment the last time I was visiting and last time I was at your house, and I was just like watching you both with the dogs, and just like, it probably looked super creepy, but I was just like sitting there like staring at you guys and just thinking like, damn, they're going to be really good parents. Like, they're going to be really cool parents because your relationship is so strong and because you love the dog so much and you love each other so much. It's just going to be like this pool of love. And Tim said something that was like really brilliant and this is something I wanted to kind of get into later, and we'll probably need to do a follow-up when you're actually officially a mother after he's born, because I would love to talk about this more as your life just unfolds more on my podcast. But he said this thing when we were talking, you and I have been talking about this a lot, of like the thing of like becoming a mother and not losing yourself, and really adding another. Tim said this, he was like, we're adding him to our team, we're not changing, going on to his team, I think he said it like more eloquently than that, but I remember just being like, wow, that's really brilliant. And it gave me a lot of peace of mind of like, you guys aren't going anywhere, my friends aren't going anywhere, we're bringing a new friend into the group that's going to be like really cool and awesome.
Yeah, that's very much, how you asked, like, when we talk about like what kind of parents we wanted to be, and like how we wanted to co-parent and how we wanted to do that. I feel like that was something that Tim brought up like really early on, just wanting to feel like, yeah, we get to add this really like cool, wonderful, incredible human being to our lives, and that we're not like going to join like his life. So that, right. And I love that he has that perspective, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's so awesome. And like Tim's just been really thoughtful throughout this whole pregnancy, like with his perspective and with the questions that he's asked. Like just a few nights ago, we were hanging out, and he asked me like if I had to pick, 2 or 3 things that I really wanted to make sure that I could prioritize for myself once the baby's here so that he could be sure to really support me so that like I'm able to do those things. So he was like, what are like the 2 or 3 things that are really, really important for you to do, like as an individual, as a woman, like as a entrepreneur, as a friend, like what are those things? Because I really want to make sure that you're able to prioritize those things. And so he's been really incredible about acknowledging that like we want to still be individuals. Yes, we're going to get to be parents, and that's going to be incredible. But we're also still ourselves. And so I love that he's been so thoughtful about that.
Oh, so good. Yeah. I think that you guys should write a parenting book before you're even parents.
Let's see how this kid turns out first.
No, it's all so good. And so it's so helpful. What a great free podcast, people. And you just got that nugget from Tim of asking your baby mama, wife, girlfriend, I was going to say boyfriend, but they're probably not pregnant. Whoever it is, asking them what they need and giving them that gift. That's just like so brilliant and really cool of him. So you wrote this article a couple months ago for Refinery 29 that went viral, and you really got vulnerable, and it was so beautiful. And I reread it before this interview, and I was like texting you, I was like, your article on Refinery 29 was so good. You were probably like, that's really random that Katie's reading that right now because it came out months ago and she's already read it, but whatever, thanks. And I just want to read part of that really resonated with me and kind of get into some of the less glamorous parts of becoming a parent, becoming a mother, and pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So you wrote, I was instantly committed to rocking a healthy, happy, super zen pregnancy. I wondered dreamily, where do I get my flower crown? Unfortunately, my body had other plans for my first trimester, plans involving a lot of nausea, carbs, and panic. It's just so well written and just so unbelievably true, I think, for so many people, whether it's an experience with pregnancy or a plan that just doesn't go the way that you think of it the way that you want it to go or the way that you anticipate it going, and having to roll with that. And that's why I think this article is so fantastic. I'll link to it in the show notes, and if people haven't read it yet, they definitely need to. But I would love to get into, when you were writing that article, the feelings that came up for you and what your expectations for pregnancy were. Some of them you mentioned there. And how have they been different? How have some of them been the same? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of that.
Sure. So before I got pregnant, I really thought that pregnancy, the people who I had known really well, the articles that I read, my mom's personal experiences that she had shared with me really led me to believe that pregnancy was this time where women felt like the most womanly that they possibly could. And it was like this very feminine, beautiful time where you felt super grounded and were just really like feeling so beautiful and very desirable and really at peace with yourself. And just that it was this incredibly magical time. And I should say that I do believe that there are many women who have experiences like that. And I think that's wonderful and fantastic. That was really all that I had ever heard of or read about, like even just reading like celebrity articles where it's like, I love being pregnant. I've never felt so sexy, whatever it is. So, when I got pregnant and was hit with this really intense nausea and vomiting constantly and could barely keep food down, could barely get myself out of bed. When I wrote the article for Refinery 29, it was during, my first trimester. It was towards the end of my first trimester when I wrote it. I did not know that at the time that I have hyperemesis, which I've had that nausea and vomiting through my entire pregnancy. So I actually thought, even when I wrote that article for Refinery 29, I believed that there was an end in sight. I just hadn't hit it yet. Turns out for me, there was no end in sight. The end will be when this baby comes out. And so it really was, it was upsetting to me. It was discouraging. I felt sad. I felt like I wasn't good at being pregnant. I felt like I wasn't womanly enough or girly enough or good enough at being pregnant. And so what I wanted to do was write this article that just shared about my experience, because I know, outside of pregnancy, with other challenging experiences that I've had, that anytime that I've shared one of those challenging experiences, there have been women out there who have shared in that experience and have appreciated being able to relate and connect. And so what I really wanted to do with that article was just say, like, yeah, some people have kick-ass pregnancies and they feel amazing and they feel wonderful. And I love that. And I'm so happy for them. There are also some of us who do not feel incredible and who do not feel amazing and who actually feel sick and feel really discouraged. And it's a very challenging time physically and emotionally and mentally. And so I just wanted to give a voice to an alternative experience, because I hadn't read that voice or heard that voice anywhere else. And I wished that I had, so that I didn't have to feel so alone during that first trimester.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast, to even just, that article's out there and it's fantastic. And anytime that I have someone know someone who's pregnant or going through anything similar, I can easily send them that link, but I want it to reach even more people. And so I think that's really how this conversation that we're having right now was born, because I want to highlight and elevate that exact point of helping people feel less alone, because that's anytime that I hear someone interviewed on a podcast or read a personal essay from someone and it makes me feel even slightly less alone with whatever it is I'm dealing with, or I call a friend, probably you, and out something that I'm feeling, and I feel heard and I feel like I'm normal and like I'm not a freak, and it makes me feel relief, and it's so cathartic to share. So that's really why I wanted to do this. So thank you for talking about it in such a public way and talking about it more now. I think it's going to help a lot of people and just bring awareness to a lot of people, that everybody's experience is different, but this is yours and it's worth it. It's worth sharing. So I want to know, with being sick and very, very sick consistently for almost 9 months now, very close to 9 months now, something that we talked about, which I, as your friend, has been so challenging. I mean, it's not challenging for me. Obviously, I'm not the one with Alyosha in my tummy, but I was the first one that ever felt him move. I will just say that before Tim. FYI.
He loves New York as much as I do, so he gave a kick when we were there.
Yeah, that was lovely. But other than that, I'm not the one super connected to this pregnancy, but something that I've just been thinking about a lot since you've been pregnant and just haven't been able to wrap my mind around it, and something that we've discussed on the phone a little bit, is that you've been sick, just like someone who has the flu or someone who is down for the count with an illness for such a long time. Whereas when someone has the flu, they get to take time off of work. They get to have downtime, and then it goes away and they get better and they catch up and they get back to their normal life. Where for you, that's not really an option, especially being an entrepreneur. And even if you had a job that was, if you worked for someone else, I think the situation would be the same. For this period of time, you can't just not work, and you can't just not go to things, and you can't completely shut down your life. You're pregnant. You have to still live and do things. However, you're feeling like you have the flu all the time. And I know for me, being nauseous, and I think this is nausea is not a feeling that anyone enjoys, but I just can't stand it. That feeling of being nauseous. I had the flu last summer, and it's just so terrible. It's not having a slight I mean, not that like earaches or a sore throat are fun, but I feel like if I have like a slight sore throat or a slight cough, like it's manageable. But the feeling of nausea and like I might get sick any second is a totally different thing. And so, how did you deal with the fact that like you had to continue on with your daily life even though you're extremely ill, but you have this almost not excuse, but you have this veil of pregnancy to kind of put over it where people are like, oh, okay, you're just pregnant. Not just pregnant, but it almost, not if it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it almost like belittles it, or it's something that you have to just like, the show must go on, but it's so much more than that. Hopefully am I articulating this right? Does this make any sense?
Yeah, totally. It totally makes sense. It definitely felt like, oh my gosh, the show must go on, like you're saying. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I had this like free pass to just like sit out of my life for 9 months. And so I did have to learn how to deal with it. And I think like the ways that I found that were most helpful to do that were, first of all, just being really like gentle and compassionate with myself. So understanding that, my level of productivity or my general energy or the things that I at one time could accomplish in a single day, that may not and likely was not available to me when I was feeling like this. So I just had to say to myself, like, okay, yes, you need to get things done. Yes, you need to show up 100% for your clients. Yes, you need to move forward, but you don't necessarily have to move forward at the speed and the pace that you were moving forward before. And that's okay. Reminding myself that like this was a season in my life, and that there will be a time where I will get back to a different level of energy and to feeling better. And I think the other thing is, with that came a really valuable lesson, actually, and that was the need to really be real about my priorities. And so when you only have so much energy and when you can only get so much done, you have to figure out like what are the things that need to rise to the top that you are going to handle first. And I have gotten very good at getting done what needs to be done and being okay with not doing more than that. So, previously it would be very normal for me to work like way, way ahead and to add lots of extra things to my plate just because like I might have had downtime. So I figured like, why not use it as an opportunity to be productive? But with, not feeling that well, with needing extra rest, with being more sick, I've been able to get done what needs to be done. And then in that extra time, rather than working super far ahead or adding like additional things to my plate, I've really used that time instead to prioritize self-care, which I have felt has been incredibly important. And that, looks like sleeping more or resting more, or, getting support or seeing holistic practitioners to try and help me to ease some of the symptoms. So things like that, I would say just general compassion with myself and understanding for myself. And then also getting really good about prioritizing, which is something a skill that I'm excited that I now have to use even after the nausea is done, because I do think that's something that's going to carry over and benefit me after I'm feeling normal again.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What a way to like make it a positive learning experience. Like everything that you go through, good or bad, is something that you can learn from, and you're so good at seeing that. So with that, what are ways that friends and family and Tim have been able to support you during this time that's been challenging? And like, what are things that have worked and what are things that haven't worked that might, come from a good place, but, from your perspective, like just weren't helpful?
Well, I think something that is important to know is that when someone feels sick, and I imagine that this isn't just, during pregnancy, but like anyone who's suffering from an illness or something that is a prolonged situation where they do not feel well, it's incredibly isolating. And you feel very lonely. You wonder, like, has the world forgotten about you? Like, have my friends forgotten about me? Do they think that I'm being like a baby or making this up or complaining too much or whatever it might be? So I think those are natural feelings and fears to have come up when essentially you're spending like what is like months in bed, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, like the most helpful thing that friends or Tim or my family have done has just like been to reach out and to let me know like that they're thinking about me. Like that has been the most valuable thing, just where I don't feel like I'm on an island by myself, but where I'm still able to connect. And because I am someone who values my relationships above everything else, that's so important to me. Like, you know, my love language is quality time. So like getting to connect with people, getting to talk with people, even when I maybe am not in a place where I can go out and be quite as social as like I previously would have been able to do. It's meant the world to me. And I would say things that are not helpful. It's not necessarily like that it's intentional, but it is hard when, you know, you have a conversation with someone and you tell them that you're struggling or not feeling well, and then it feels like they like never reach out again to connect with you, or when you do reach out to them, like they don't really reciprocate it. And so that's like a challenging thing for me personally, because I am someone who values those relationships so much. So yeah, I would say like if you have someone in your life who you feel like is going through something like this, like just text them or call them and let them know that you're thinking about them. And if you are someone who's going through something like this, just know that it's normal to feel a little bit lonely and a little bit isolated, and that it's okay to reach out to the people who you care about and let them know that you're feeling that way.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was like, I want to text you and see
But
how
you're
you're
so
doing.
good at that. You do such a good job of that.
I'm talking to you right now, so it doesn't make sense, but I'm going to text you like after this.
Perfect.
We're texting all day anyway. Yeah, I just, honestly, like, I've been thinking about it so much, like, I'll be sitting here and I'm like, Simi's nauseous right now. You know, like, whenever, it, like, makes me really grateful for the fact of, like, I don't feel like I need to barf right now. You know, it's Tuesday. And it's just, you know, whenever I call you and you answer the phone, I can tell if you've, like, just thrown up. And by the way that you answer the phone. And it's always, I'm just like, it's been so long. I'm so happy that we're finally towards the end.
I know. I can't wait. But something that you just said, like where you said, oh, I just like appreciate that. Like I'm not nauseous right now. I do feel like this whole experience has given me such an incredible appreciation for feeling normal, for feeling like I could do anything like in the body that I'm in. And that is something that I am so grateful for, because I do think that I had almost gotten to a place where I had taken for granted how great I felt in my skin and how comfortable I felt and how I could really, you know, like basically say yes to anything. Like I felt pretty capable. And so I'm so appreciative for this experience, because I do feel like after feeling unwell for so long, that I have a completely new appreciation for wellness, and it's an appreciation that I don't know that I would have developed if I had not had this experience.
Yeah, that's so cool, and that's kind of the next point I wanted to talk about anyway. And the other big part of your refinery article was the aspect of body image and what pregnancy did for your appreciation of your body and your image of yourself and your relationship with food. And so I'd love to really get into that. And, you know, for a review, you know, talk a little bit about your relationship with food and your body before your pregnancy. And for people to get much more of that, they can go back and listen to the first episode with you, which we'll link in the show notes. But give us a little bit of like an update of like where you were, just before getting pregnant, and then how you realized, oh, there was maybe some more stuff here, and kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So after a pretty like significant history with food restriction and dieting and orthorexia and binge eating, I had done a lot of work in my relationship with myself and had gotten to what I believed was just a really healthy and happy place in my relationship with food and in my relationship with my body. Became a health coach, like help other women to help other women do the same. And I really, I mean, before getting pregnant, I really felt so comfortable, so confident in my own skin. I felt very in tune with what my body needed. I felt like I really had just a very like relaxed presence in that area of my life. Like it didn't need any effort. I really, had a deep appreciation for myself and was practicing self-care regularly and embracing intuitive eating and just didn't feel the need to diet or restrict or criticize myself or any of those things. So it was in a really healthy and happy place before I got pregnant.
Bring us into what the relationship with your body was like once you did get pregnant, and did you realize you maybe had you tell us what happened.
Sure. So I because I was in such a good place like with my body and how I was feeling around food, I was actually really excited about pregnancy because like I mentioned earlier, I had already had a very like euphoric view of what pregnancy was going to be like for me. So I was like, this is awesome. I'm already feeling like so good in my body. I'm going to like go to this next place where I'm going to love like watching my like body shape change, and I'm so in tune with what my body needs that I'm really going to be able to like feed her all the foods that she needs to grow like this wonderful like healthy happy baby. And I can't wait to drink all the green smoothies and to eat like sprouted grains and like do all these things that are just going to feel so like incredible to my to the baby, and is going to like help to have this like abundant health. And
you ate a lot of that sort of thing before, so
right, totally. And I was just excited. I was like, I'm so lucky to have gotten pregnant at this time where mentally and physically, like I'm in such a good place. I can't wait to sort of, use that relationship with myself to help create like a really like healthy, happy baby. And so I was just really looking forward to that. And then I get pregnant and I'm so sick, and like the only thing that I can like even like fathom eating is like sticky white rice from like takeout restaurants, like super like greasy pad thai, and like that was essentially like it. Like anything that you would like think of as nutritious, my body literally rejected it. Like I tried once to drink a green smoothie, and I think I got like 3 sips in, and like it would not, like my body was like not having any of this. Like I couldn't eat a vegetable. We couldn't even keep vegetables in the house. I actually had to have Tim move all the vegetables onto our deck out back. And I had to call a friend and be like, listen, come pick up these vegetables. Like, otherwise they're going in the trash can. Like, I can't even look at them. I can't smell them. I can't see them. Like, they can't be in the house. I can't even know that they're here. And so it was like just I couldn't even eat like brown rice. Like it had to be like white, like sticky rice with like sugar vinegar on top. I don't even know like what they put on, like what is going on like on this rice, but it couldn't even be, it wasn't like, oh, okay, I can eat like whole grains. It was like, no, I can eat like processed carbohydrates, and that's essentially like about all that my body can handle at this point. And for the first few days, like it's fine, right? Because I'm just like a little bit nauseous, fine, like I'll eat some white rice. But then after like days and days and then weeks of that's the only thing that you can even keep down. And it was also scary at that time too, because I was throwing up so much that then I was, losing weight. And so then you're worried about the baby in that way too. It's like, okay, I'm not even like hanging on to weight, and I'm eating these foods that are like nutritionally devoid of anything. And a lot of my old food fears like really started to surface during this time because I felt it was like double. It was like I felt like I was letting myself down, and I realized that there were a lot of these rules coming up where I was like, oh, this food's bad for me, or I shouldn't eat this food. Like I should be eating these like really nutritious foods for the baby. So I felt badly like on one level about like taking care of myself, but then I felt like terribly on this whole like other much deeper level about how I was like letting down this baby and like was already an awful mother because like the only thing I could eat essentially was like toaster waffles and couldn't give my baby like anything that
you're actually making me hungry right now with the toaster waffles and the white rice.
I could go for some pad thai right now. So
yeah.
it was, I mean, it really like brought up a lot of stuff for me. I was feeling emotional, I was feeling exhausted, I was feeling really sick. And honestly, like I was just feeling like a failure on so many levels. And it had been a really long time since I had experienced even an ounce of guilt around food. And I just felt like in that moment where I was like, I cannot trust my body to like crave the things or need the things that like this baby actually needs. And so that was really scary. And it was also another thing, that I talked about in that refinery article because I couldn't find anyone talking about this online, even though I know that a lot of women deal with awful nausea and vomiting during their first trimester, and even like throughout their pregnancy. But I felt like for those of us who have had a history of disordered eating or eating disorders or anxiety around food or whatever it might be, that like these experiences were not only like emotional from the point of wanting to be good moms and like take good care of our bodies like during pregnancy, but also from a place of like really triggering like a lot of that old mentality. And so that was something that I just wanted to share, that was my experience. And so if other people are having that experience, like please know that you are not alone. Like that was definitely my experience.
Yeah. What about thoughts about your body and as you get closer to him being here, did you notice any old thoughts about your body specifically coming up, not just the food aspect?
In a way, I feel like I've been distracted a little bit from my body in the way that it like physically looks and is changing because of how I've felt. And it's so funny because I work with a lot of my clients. I'm like, okay, if like in order to, stop obsessing about like how we look, we focus on like how we want to feel, right? Like how do we want to feel in our bodies and how do we make choices that connect us more with how we want to feel? And so I think because I've been so distracted by just feeling pretty terribly that I haven't focused too much on like obsessing over physical changes. Yeah. But with that said, there is a lot of anxiety, I believe, that comes from having people constantly commenting on your body and how it looks, having people touch your body, like reach out and physically touch you, in a place where like no stranger would ever physically touch you on a normal day. Like no one's like reaching out and like touching your belly button when you're not pregnant. And so that has those moments definitely can cause some physical anxiety. And I think that, I haven't talked to a single pregnant woman who says that it feels good for her when people are commenting on her body or that it feels good for her when strangers are like reaching out and touching her. So I think that while there may be people who don't mind it at all, I think that there is a huge chunk, maybe like majority of women who that causes like a lot of body anxiety and discomfort. And I know that it's uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. I'm so glad you touched on that. I wrote in the Facebook group for podcast listeners, which everyone should join if they're not in already. But Claire in there asked the question that I think you just covered, but how does she handle it gracefully yet assertively without reverting back to old thoughts when someone is touching your body, touching your stomach, asking invasive questions. And I think you just touched on that, but it's such a interesting thing that in our culture, it's okay to do that for this particular time in a woman's life. It's actually pretty strange.
Yeah, I think that people who comment on and touch pregnant women's bodies, I don't think they do it with ill intent at all.
No.
But what I think that is forgotten is that I'm a human being and I have this body and I've lived with this body now for 30 years. And you're commenting like on the baby as if it's separate from me, but really like it's inside me. So
right.
by like trying to touch the baby or by commenting on the baby, I think that they forget that they're actually like commenting on and touching you.
Yeah, like there is no baby yet. It's just you right now with a baby inside of you.
Right. I think there's a disconnect between that, but for the person living in the pregnant body, it's very much connected. But I think for the people externally, there's just that disconnect, and it's not coming from like a mean or a judgmental place or anything, but people just feel that they're entitled to comment on or reach out and touch pregnant women's bodies as if they're suddenly like public property, like the way that you would walk up to someone and be like, your kid's so cute.
Right, or a dog.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, okay, yeah, but the baby's like inside me, so everything that you're saying, like if someone says to you like, oh my gosh, the baby's like getting so big, like what that feels like when you're pregnant is, oh my God, you're getting so big.
Yeah.
Or the comments can go the other way, like, oh, I can't even tell that you're pregnant. It's like, well, okay, I don't know what I am. Like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
And so there's all these,
You want me to show you the pregnancy test?
Right, totally. I'm like, I'm not making it up, I promise. And so I think that in terms of how do I handle it, I love the quote, and I know we've all heard it like 1,000 times, but what we appreciate appreciates. And so in those moments, I realize that I have a choice where I can begin to hyper focus on my physicality and on my pregnant body and what others may or may not be thinking of me. And if I choose to do that, that anxiety and body fear is going to be what magnifies in my mind. Or what I can choose to appreciate is someone's like kind or curious intention, or I can choose to appreciate how I'm really excited because soon I'll get to meet like my baby, things like that. And then when I choose to shift the focus to those things, then that can appreciate, and that feeling, those feelings of gratitude or of peacefulness, that's then what grows. So for me, it's really just recognizing that in that moment, as uncomfortable as someone's comment or gesture may make me, that I have the ability to choose how I want to react and how I want to move forward with my thoughts in that moment or for the rest of the day. And so it's just been like a real, a practice of like disciplined consciousness, I guess, and really being intentional about like what it is that I'm going to choose to think about and what I'm going to choose to allow to magnify in my mind. Because I do think it's really easy to go to that place where, we get really self-critical and then that spirals out of control.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad that you shared all of that. One thing that I'm curious about, and kind of in the same vein, so before you were pregnant or when you were thinking about becoming pregnant, did you have any fears about your body? Because I don't know if this is just me getting personal and real. That's something that and this is probably, still some of my history with, the body image stuff that I've had, but it's such a triggering thing for me, like the fear of this changing my body in so many ways and me not being myself again after that. And I think, part of that stems from like my mom's experience with pregnancy and her body and witnessing that. But was that something that, and it totally makes sense what you were saying about your physical appearance not even being a concern, because I know like when I'm really sick, the last thing I'm thinking of is when I have the flu or something is how I look. You just don't care.
Totally.
So, but was that a fear you had before you were pregnant?
So first, I just want to say that I think it's a fear that a lot of women have, and so I don't think it's like it's silly to experience that. But and I definitely had that like previously, when especially like when I was really like struggling with things with food in my body. I remember thinking like, okay, but if I finally like achieve this perfect body, I'll never want to like let it go. Like I won't want to like lose it like to pregnancy or to any of those things. So I can definitely remember a time when I had those thoughts. When I actually got pregnant, I did not feel that way about my body. I think when I finally got pregnant, I was really open to and like embracing the idea that our bodies are constantly changing, and that pregnancy would just be like a season of change for my body. And I have a lot of friends who are either pregnant now or have young children. And they all seem to really enjoy their pregnant bodies, and also like are taking incredible care of themselves after having babies. And I don't hear them speaking negatively about their bodies. So at the time when I got pregnant, I feel like I was surrounded by a lot of really like positive pregnant and post-pregnant body talk. And so that was really encouraging for me. And so that's more of the headspace that I was in when I got pregnant. It was just like, okay, bodies are constantly changing. Like I really wasn't that like obsessed with my pre-pregnancy body that I cared, that I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't lose this, because I was in a place more of like not thinking that much about it. And so I think that was helpful. And then also coupled with just the positive pregnancy body talk that I was hearing from friends and people around me. I felt like, oh, awesome. This is so cool. I get to embrace my body in a new way. I get to like have this like, what I imagined like this adorable like baby bump, and I'm going to feel so cute and I'm going to feel so beautiful and feminine. And then like afterwards, all my friends seem to, feel really great, and they've gone on to do a lot of things like physically that seem to make them like really happy, like whether that's running certain races or, feeling comfortable wearing bathing suits on the beach or whatever those things might be. So that felt really, really positive to me. But a few years before I got pregnant, I definitely had a lot of those fears about becoming pregnant and what would happen to my body. And I think that's so normal. I'm just really lucky that at the time when I got pregnant, I feel like I had a really like amazing like support system and positive dialogue like surrounding me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it totally does. I think positive examples with body image, with pregnancy, with whatever in your life are so impactful for your perception of what it's going to be like and your experience of it.
I think it's so true. And I mean, there's like not enough of them, right? Because I feel like every time that there's something in the media, it's like, get your pre-pregnancy like body back, and that's not
it's damaging.
That's not encouraging. It's totally damaging. Also, like nobody gets their pre-pregnancy body back because you've been pregnant. Like your body is never going to be like pre-pregnant again. You've been pregnant, and so I think it's just setting women up to feel insecure and like this insane pressure on us that's like not even possible. It's not realistic. It's not reality.
Yeah, totally. I'm so glad we talked about that, and that's inspiring to hear that stuff sort of dissipates when you're in a really healthy spot. So, all right, now we're going to do these, I've decided, as sort of quick fire-ish. So this is the part where I think will be really fun to look back on and kind of talk about your answers, in a year, in 2 years, when Alyosha is out of your belly and a real human being, and I don't know, maybe even older. I think it'll be fun to look back. I love that podcasting can capture a moment of time, and we can look back on this conversation in the future. So I'm going to just ask you these questions, and don't think about them too much, and just kind of say the first couple of things that come to your mind.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so what have you felt in the past few months that surprised you the most being pregnant?
I am just like so much more in love with Tim than I was before I got pregnant.
I love that so much.
I did not know that was possible or expect that to happen, but I'm just like so like crazy about him.
I'm so crazy about both of you. So, what has been the best part of pregnancy? What is one thing that you remember that was really positive and great that you've liked?
I think just feeling really present in my body. Because even though sometimes it's been because I felt so sick, I've really felt like very, very like grounded, very like pulled into my body and like much less distracted. So more present.
Cool. Have there been any like weird things or funny stories that have happened while being pregnant or like weird things that anyone said or that have happened to you or like just anything kind of goofy that comes to mind?
Yes, I don't know if this is going to be an overshare, but I'm going to share it anyway. So I apologize to anyone who's like grossed out by like boob talk, but I'm so glad we did this. We did this episode today, not a few days ago, because it literally just happened 2 days ago.
Oh, good.
But I was sitting on the couch and I was wearing like this like like gray tank top and Oliver was laying in my lap like passed out and Tim looked over and he goes, Sim, I think like milk just came out of your
Really?
and I was like, oh my God. And I got so embarrassed. This is something that I will say, like when we were talking about like the body talk that I didn't mention, but now is like coming up, like the thing, like some of the changes in your body, like they're weird, right? Like, and they can be like a little bit like embarrassing or alarming or whatever. So you just sort of have to like deal with them as they happen. But I looked down and I was like, oh my God, like there was literally like milk like coming through my shirt. Like it had come out of my boob and I was like, this is so embarrassing. So I told Tim, I was like, no, I think Oliver just licked me. And he goes, Sim, Oliver's like passed out. And I was like, no, he definitely jumped up and licked me. And so then I went to move my shirt to like adjust it so that like the wet spot wouldn't be like right on my boob and like my nipple. And then more milk came out.
Oh my gosh. So that's a thing. So it starts coming.
Yeah, it's like the funniest, weirdest, like most embarrassing like pregnancy moment that I've had like up until this point. And I was like still in denial. I was like, yep, definitely Oliver licked me. Nothing to see here.
Well, at least you weren't giving a talk in front of a lot of people. You were just like on the couch with Tim.
Oh my God.
And even then everyone would have been cool with it.
Yeah. Again, so sorry if that's like TMI for any.
No, I love it. That's like why why I asked. Oh my gosh, that's so good and so funny. Yeah, I was gonna say something else about that, but I don't know, I lost it. Oh, one thing I wanted to say that I wrote down that is totally off topic for what we're talking about right now, but I just wanted to say is that when you were talking about prioritizing before and only being able to do so much, I just want to say, for the record, for when we go back to listen to this, and for you, I know as your friend some of the things that you've accomplished during your pregnancy, and you have done in these last 9 months so much amazing stuff for your business, for like you've been such a supportive friend, like let me just make this all about me and tell you all the things you've done for me since you've been pregnant. Like you came with me to the launch of my book in New York and like were amazing that entire time and such a champ with like annoying flight delays. And then you hosted me in Columbus like a bunch of times, hosted a book launch event for me there. I mean, you did like so many amazing things just for me. And then for yourself, for your business, you've been doing events, you've been writing, you've been doing like so many amazing things and getting your business in this like amazing, beautiful place. And I'm just so proud of you of how productive you've been and how creative you've been and all of the things that you've done and the trips that you've taken, and I just wanted to say that for the record. So
thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate that. That means so much.
FYI. All right, so another weird thing about pregnancy, they talk about the weird dreams, right? And that's something you definitely experienced,
yes.
Right? Is that still happening, or is that like more of a beginning thing?
I have had like the craziest sex dreams since getting pregnant, and like I feel like I need to Like I feel like I need to like quit my like health coaching practice and go into like porno writing or something because I have like all these like wild ideas now. Like my mind's just feeding me these crazy ideas.
Write them
I
down.
know, right?
Just in case. You might write the next 50 Shades of Grey.
I totally could, like the way at the rate that I'm going. But
Dude, I want to read it.
super crazy, like super vivid sex dreams up until I would say like maybe 1 week ago, and now I'm just having like really weird like nightmares. They're not baby related nightmares or parenthood related nightmares or anything. They're just like really like creepy weird nightmares. So I think something maybe like hormonally has shifted and I've gone from like these awesome like amazing sex dreams to now like super weird nightmares.
Well, write those down. Maybe you have a thriller in you.
Who knows? There's so many like movie ideas swirling around in my dreams.
I know, for real. So, okay, let's talk a little bit more about parenthood specifically. So, what are you most looking forward to about being a new and a first-time mom?
I just can't wait to see I can't wait to see what he looks like and what his personality is like. It's just so bizarre that I'm gonna be like hanging out so much with this human who like I already love, but like I don't know anything about him, right? So I have like Tim and I both have a lot of ideas about what we think he's gonna be like, and we both have the same ideas, which we think is like so weird. Like we've basically like imagined this human being and like what he's gonna be like in our minds. But like he could be like that, but he could be totally different, and I just can't wait to like get to know him.
Yeah. But also he probably will be like that. I think if intuitively you both feel that way. And then also just the fact that you're going to be around him a lot of the time, you're going to shape him into this way that you imagine him to be. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting. Cool. So what are you most fearful of being a new mom?
I'm most fearful of I think I'm most fearful of I'm trying to think of how to put this into words. Like I don't want to I guess like losing what is so special between like me and Tim. Like I feel like I'm most afraid of losing like our connection or like the love between us, or like having, you know, him like resent me for things or me resent him for things. Like I'm most afraid about losing something or you know, a lot of things in between us, because like my marriage, my relationship with him is just like so precious and sacred to me that I find myself like, especially in these last couple weeks of pregnancy, just like wanting to spend as much time with him as I can and wanting to like let him know how special he is to me. So I think just like the romantic like marriage part, I'm afraid of losing that getting lost in parenthood.
Well, don't you worry. This is being recorded. So anytime you're fearful, we just cut out that little paragraph and we just like keep it on like a flash drive, and you guys can just like play it on a sound system around the house, and you'll be like, oh, all right, we need a date night, and I'll come over and watch Alyosha, and you guys can go hang out. So another thing that I think will be interesting to look back on after you've been parents for a while, what do you think parenthood will be like? What are some of your expectations for it?
I think it will be a big team effort. Like one of my big expectations is that Tim and I are going to do this together. I feel like we decided to get pregnant together. Like we decided that we wanted to have a child together. And so my big expectation is just that we will be in it together. We will be supporting each other. We'll be doing this like as a team. And it'll kind of, you know, be the five of us like in it together. So that would be like a big expectation that I have.
Count me in.
Oh, 6, obviously.
Deal me in.
Yes. So that's like probably my my biggest expectation. And then another like kind of weird expectation that I have is that I really think like Tim and Alyosha are going to be like best buddies. And so I sort of have this like maybe very unrealistic expectation that I'm gonna have like a little bit more solo time than Tim is, because I think they're gonna be, I don't know, like I think they're gonna be like more in it together.
Well, feel free to adopt me if you want to. I've told you guys for years if you want an adult child that I'm up for adoption. So
I love it. I love it. Well, like my joke, and this is like, I mean, it's totally a joke. Like, I know this is not real, but when we found out we were having a boy, I was like, whoa, like, I feel like a huge weight's been lifted. Like, Tim's gonna take care of all like the tough conversations, and he'll talk to him about sex and like do all those things. And like, I'm off the hook now.
yeah.
Of course, is not true, but I do think there is a part of me that like sees them being like so close and like buddy buddy that I'm like, cool, like I'll be like the lone girl in the house, and they'll do their guy things together, and I'll kind of be on my own.
Yeah, you're already outnumbered by
Totally. I'm
boys.
so outnumbered in this house. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm here for.
We need you to come here. Exactly.
Don't you worry. We're working on that. So, what advice do you have to a newly pregnant person? Take yourself back to, December 26th, when you found out that you were having a baby. What would you tell yourself or a newly pregnant person?
I guess my only piece of advice would be just to be open to whatever your experience is, and to know that whether it's the experience that you expected to have, or that your friends had, or that your mom had, or that you've seen like celebrities have, or whatever it is, whatever your experience is, even if it's different than what your expectations might have been, just to be open to that, and to know that it's okay, and that I really do believe that everything happens for a reason. So know that you're having the experience that you're having for a reason, and that it's not just like in vain.
That was so good. Thank you for that and everything else that you shared. So I want to know, well, one more thing, I guess. So you're obviously going on maternity leave, but right now you're taking consultations, and you'll be helping women when you get back and doing coaching with them, right?
Yes, I will be.
So tell us a little bit about your coaching. And do you work with people who are mothers? Do you work with people who are pregnant? Do you work with people, like, what are kind of some of the different people that you work with, and how can people get in touch with you if they have something that they think would be something that would be really great to talk with you about? I mean, I'll say from personal experience that I'm very lucky that I get to have you as a friend and a coach, and you've helped me so much in my life with body image stuff and food stuff. I've had so many conversations with you about, Simi, I don't know what to eat or what to cook or what to do. Can you help me? And just, you've always been so supportive, and you're just such a great person to listen to, and you have so many great perspectives. So what are some of the, archetypes, I guess, of different people who you work with, and how do you help women?
Oh, thank you so much for saying that, Katie. I work with, like you said, I work with only women. And some of my clients are moms, some are pregnant, and some do not have kids and are nowhere near like wanting to have kids, or like maybe ever want kids. So
like me,
I would say women at all different stages. But what I really work with women to do is to learn how to take care of themselves, their bodies, and in their lives, because I love seeing women tap in to their intuition and learn how to listen to themselves, and learn how to become their own expert, their own best friend, and then watch like what can unfold with their relationship with food, in their other like more interpersonal relationships, in their relationships with themselves. And then I think all that opens them up to be able to living their fullest lives. And so that's what I really work with women to do, is to help them learn how to take incredible care of themselves, so that they're able to say yes to what really matters to them.
Oh, it sounds delightful. So I think you told me before this that you're doing a special thing for everyone who's listening here, that you'll give them a free consultation if they want to talk with you, if they tell you that they came from here. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, we'll have the details in the show notes for how they can do that. And if they have any questions for Simi about what it's like working with you or whatever, she's in my Facebook group, and she's like super active in there, and she's my best friend. So she'll be able to answer any questions about pregnancy. I'm like signing you up to do this, but to answer questions about pregnancy or coaching or self-care or whatever. We'll have like a little chat in the Facebook group now that this is out. Cool?
Awesome. I would love that. I love getting to connect with other women and hearing about their experiences.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. Third time's a charm. Anything else that you wanted to say? Anything you think that I missed? Anything at all?
Just that I'm so grateful for you and for this opportunity just to share my experience, not because I think my experience is like perfect or the right experience, but just so that hopefully women will feel comfortable wherever they're at in their journey, and knowing that that whatever is happening to them and whatever their experience is, that it's okay.
All right, guys, there you have it. That was my conversation most recently with my best friend, Simi. If you like this conversation, tweet at us. Let us know that you're still listening. And again, I want to shout out my friend Amanda, my best friend Amanda's program, Liberated Movement. Check it out. Again, use the link in the show notes. And if you have any questions on if it's right for you or if you want to do it, feel free to shoot me an email. I will get back to you personally and let you know what I think about the program and if it would be right for you or not. I will be honest and just let you know. So email me for that, and make sure you subscribed, because next week on the podcast, I have, drumroll please, Josh Radnor. And many of you might know who he is. He was the star of How I Met Your Mother, a little TV show you may or may not have heard of that was on in the 2000s. And he is the guy trying to find the mother. So he's the star of that show. But I actually didn't even watch that show. I love Josh because of his movies. They were really meaningful to me. His first movie, Happy Thank You More Please, that he wrote, direct, and starred in, and the next movie that he wrote, direct, and starred in, Liberal Arts. Both of them are amazing. Check them out before the episode, because we do talk about them in the episode. And come to find out, he's a really wise, insightful, kind person who I got to know in the episode. That's very long, very tangential, and very informative and interesting and fascinating, that you guys will have in your earbuds next week. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're on my email list, and check out Amanda's program, check out Simi. I love you guys. Hopefully you're still listening. I'm just rambling, and I actually really have to go. I have to catch a flight right now. I am off, but I will talk to you guys super soon. When you're hearing this, I am in New York, probably. So you've probably seen me on social media there. But I love you, and I will be back by the time, I'll still be there when this is airing, but then I'll be back after that. All right, love you guys. Bye.